Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the Mr. Healthy Habits podcast. So today we're going to talk about dealing with difficult people in life and strategies that you can employ to try to better prepare yourself to handle these type of people. So I'm going to start off by telling you a story about the previous job that I had. Now, I stepped into a completely new field back in 2016, the field of wastewater treatment. And I remember when I first walked onto that plant, hearing the other operators talk about plant operations, it sounded like they were speaking Martian to me. Like I might as well have been on a different planet. So there was a pretty significantly sized learning curve that I had to overcome to become efficient at this job. One of the men that worked there was obviously a difficult person to work with. He was the type of guy that might have just needed a hug, a real crabby kind of guy. But he also seemed like he knew what he was doing. So I told everyone that I was training with, if I'm going to be trained, I want to be trained by that guy. I want to work with him because I know if I could freaking learn how to operate this plant to his liking, to his satisfaction, then I'll make it in this industry. I'll be just fine because this guy's a sharp, straight shooter. So I remember I got what I wished for, and they assigned me to work with this man. And he was showing me the rounds and the numbers that we had to take off certain gauges around the plants. So now this plant, it's been chopped up and put back together several times. So a lot of the gauges don't match. Some count by 2, some count by 5, some count by 1. You don't know where they all are. It was my first time doing this. And so I'm looking carefully at the gauges, trying to do a good job here. And this man speaks to me and he says, well, what's the matter? What's taking you so long? Haven't you ever seen a gauge before? How did you get this job if you don't know how to read gauges? And I was just thinking to myself, oh man, I got what I asked for. This guy is going to be every bit of a difficult person to work with that I thought he was going to be. So I'm new, of course. I'm on probation. I didn't overreact. I took that and I was going to do something constructive with it. So when we had downtime, I took the round sheet that we wrote all the numbers off of, a blank one, and I went back into those buildings and went over those gauges over and over and over because we had to take those numbers one more time by the end of the shift, and that was not going to happen again. I took it upon myself to take his criticism, albeit a little boorish, and do something constructive with it. I realized, okay, yeah, maybe I could do a better job reading these gauges, even though it's the first time that I've seen it. But this is obviously something that this man takes very seriously. So I've got to take him seriously. Yeah, he's not going to be the perfect teacher. His criticisms aren't going to be perfectly tailored towards my liking. But nevertheless, there is going to be something here that I'm going to learn from this man. For one reason or another, the universe has decided that this man was going to be the first man that was going to train me in my career in wastewater. So I could either learn something from it, or I could close my mind off to it and fight the situation that I was put in. But I chose to grab that round sheet and go over those numbers. And when we had went over them again, in actual scenario here, writing them down for the logbook, I pretty much nailed it. I walked through all those gauges, no problem, like I'd been doing it over and over. Dennis looked noticeably shocked. And he stopped short of telling me that I did a good job, but it was written on his face. Instead, he decided to criticize me about something else, about the way that I folded up the log sheet for the next shift. So it was okay, whatever. That's just the way he is. But later on down the road, Leopard can't change his spots. He's still pretty much the same guy, difficult to work with. And there was a number of other situations that I had to learn how to overcome difficult people to better work with this man. A few years go by, I'm a journeyman there at the plant, and now I'm applying for a different position. A position at a much more prestigious place that will eventually lead to more money than I could have ever made at this place before. And I remember sitting down across from the interview panel when they asked me to tell them about a time that I had dealt with a difficult coworker and what did I do? How did I handle the situation? And I knew exactly the story that I was going to tell them. And I told them the exact story that I told all of you guys just here a moment ago. And I got that job ranking 1 coming out of that panel interview. And like I said, everyone that comes into your life comes into your life for a reason. For one reason or another, the universe decided that Dennis was going to be the very first man that was going to train me in wastewater. And later on, my experiences working with him helped me to get probably the last job that I'm ever going to work at. A job that I love working at and that I love going to every day with a great group of guys. So it wasn't all for nothing. It would have been, it could have been if I didn't handle the situation the way that I did. But when people, difficult people come into your life, and they will have their criticisms. And sometimes they're going to be downright douchebags. Sometimes they're going to be jerks. They will be this, that, and the other. And I'm not saying that they won't be. But I am saying that you can always take the criticism that they're applying to you and use it to make yourself a stronger, better person. Now, as for them being jerks and whatnot, that is a whole nother discussion for what sounds like a separate podcast. But I'm going to make the argument that Dennis had no control over the way he acted. He had no control over that. He is a product of his past circumstances and influences and situations in his life that compelled him to be the way that he was. Truth is, all things similar, if I was born in that man's shoes, born in his neighborhood, to his parents, with his family, went to his schools, with his teachers, had his experience in the Navy and wherever else he came from in life, had gone through the same things that he had gone through in his life, and now was there at that place of work, at that treatment plant, training someone who looked like me, I would have acted the same exact way that he did. I would not have been any different. I would be him with his experiences and his influences. You know, it all really goes back to the fact that we think that there is a self inside, and there is just not. There is just not. The self is an illusion. All we are is a mix of our past experiences, our influences, and biology. And those things determine the moves that we are going to make next in life. We think we have a conscious choice here to make a decision, but we don't. Dennis had no choice but to act the way that he did to me. And knowing that, I take it is not personal. It's not personal. That man has had a completely different life. And the truth is, if I had lived his life, I would be the exact same way. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't give you the right to go and just be rude to people. You know, there still are people out there that just suck. Let's face it, you know. But the truth is, if I had been born in their shoes and, like I said, had their same experience in life, I would suck too. You know, I would suck too. And I wouldn't be any different. So when you know that, there is peace that you can find in that. I could find peace in that, knowing that it wasn't really Dennis. It wasn't that he had some kind of negative opinion of me or anything. And if he did, it's not like he had any control over that. It was just another manifestation of something here in the universe that he is. It's all of his past experiences and influences in his life compel him to do the things that he does. It's not personal, you know. So knowing that if I was in his shoes, I would be the exact same way. You can detach yourself from it. You can detach yourself from it and learn to not let them bring you down. Not let the way someone else might treat you bring you down, because you know that it's not personal. This is the way the universe works. It's all cause and effect. They've had causes and effects on their lives that have made them the way that they are. And I'm not saying that it makes it right or that they have some kind of an excuse. But what I am saying is it's not personal. We have no more control over those people. They have no more control over themselves than they have control over the rings of Neptune or the way the moon orbits the earth. And I know there is another argument here. Well, what about people that are really bad? I mean, what about people that kidnap kids and murder and that kind of thing? Are you going to say that they don't have any control over it either? And yes, unfortunately, that is the argument that I'm going to make. They don't have any control over it. If I was born just as they were and lived that same life, I very well might be some kind of federal con too. You know, I may be a pretty bad person myself if I had gone through what they had gone through. Just as if they had had my upbringing, they would be me. They wouldn't be who they are today. You know, so I guess the big takeaway here is just forgiveness and detachment. Know that those people aren't a reflection of you. They're not a reflection of your negative qualities. They are a reflection of themselves. When they criticize you, they are telling a story about themselves, not you. It's about where they come from, where they've been, the kind of people in their life that they have dealt with. And they look at you and then it comes out. And it's not personal. And like I said, it's not, they're projecting their own past onto you for one reason or another. A quote that I've seen here that can wrap this up pretty well. Some people, you are going to bother them simply because your spirit irritates their demons. And in a lot of cases, that's what it really comes down to, unfortunately. But it's things, like I've said, that they just don't have any control over. So know that it's not personal and forgive. And yeah, it sucks, you know, that people can be like that. But again, remember, all things similar. If you were born in their shoes, you would be the exact same way, just as I would be. I know that's a really tough one for a lot of people to deal with because no one really wants to believe that. Everyone wants to believe that we're autonomous, we control our own choices and our own thoughts, and that we can be better. But I'm here to tell you, we can't. It's all an illusion. We're all a product of where we come from and the forces that have shaped our lives. So, share thoughts with me if you'd like, you know. I mean, if you're listening to this and you happen to disagree, go ahead and leave a comment on wherever you're seeing this podcast, or you could email me, leave a message on my Instagram. You know, you can find me at Mr_healthy_habits or at philosophical.reminders. And I would be more than happy to talk with anyone about that who feels that this conversation needs to go into more depth. And I will release other episodes for sure on this topic because, I mean, this is going to be an overall theme as far as this podcast is going to go. But I hope you guys are having a great day. And even though there's really nothing we can do about whether we are or not, I mean, the only thing we really can do is just open ourselves up to new experiences, you know? I mean, experiences and influences are really what changes as a person fundamentally. So that's what I try to do with these audiobooks that I listen to and the things that I read, is to expand my mind and listen to things that will influence me in profound ways and help me to look at the world a little differently. So again, you guys take care, and I look forward to speaking with you in the next episode.